Hello students, welcome to week 4 of Business 340, Principles of Management. There are a number of objectives we're accomplishing this week from chapter 6. We're going to be looking at explaining why decision making is an important component of good management. We'll be discussing the differences between programmed and non-programmed decisions, considering the implications of certainty or uncertainty in decision making. There's a lot of uncertainty in decision making for sure. We're going to be describing the various models, processes, and personal styles that are used in decision making. And then identifying and explaining techniques for innovative group decision making. As a leader, you're going to make many decisions each day. In the materials needed for success tab, I've included an article about studies, and some of this article includes opinions as well, so make sure you read those carefully. But these are studies and some opinions regarding how many decisions that we make each and every day. Interesting read. The range varies quite a bit. As a leader, it is not just about the number of decisions that you make, but it's the scope of those decisions. Your decisions impact the lives of other people. Seek God's counsel and guidance first. Now, the text identifies a pretty good framework for how managers can make good decisions. Check out Exhibit 6.3 in your text. I like the first step in this process. It's kind of funny, but it's recognizing that you even need to make a decision. I know I'm being Captain Obvious here, but before going down the path of even making a decision, you need to verify that a decision needs to be made, or it needs to be made by you even. If the decision even needs to be made by you is kind of a big question. Maybe this decision is made best by one of your peers or someone who works for you maybe. You don't have to make all these decisions. I would also add that you need to get the facts before you make a decision. This is somewhat related to step 2 in the Exhibit 6.3 diagram. Too often I've made bad decisions because I did not gather all of the facts and I felt pressured to make a quick decision. Now, over time, I've learned that I do not always need to make a quick decision, and I can make a better decision when I slow down, talk with others, and develop alternatives. Now, listen, if there's a crisis and emergency, you got to do the best you can with what you have to work with. But overall, if you could slow down, make a good decision, talk with other people, develop alternatives, that would probably be the best outcome. And I'm also going to remind you of this wonderful thing in our society now called fake news. It's happening all around us, and yes, it happens in business, not just politics. Decide for yourself. Don't buy into someone else's supposed facts until you can verify them the best as you can with your own credible sources. Check out all kinds of opinions and facts around a particular topic, and then you make the decision about what is true and not true. Let's talk for a moment about your personal decision-making style. There are 4 different styles that are discussed on page 225 in your text. Read through those and decide which style you use kind of like by default. There's the directive style. It's a style that likes simple and clear-cut solutions. There's the analytical style, which is a style that walks 360 degrees around complex problems, looking for the best alternatives. And then there's the conceptual style. It's a style that also looks at a lot of data, but also heavily weights the input from other people to come up with a creative solution. And then there's this one called behavioral. It's a style of decision making that leans heavily on understanding feelings and perceptions of others when you're making a decision. Now, I want to point out there is no right or wrong style, and good managers actually use a mix of these. They know when to switch gears. In my younger days, I never switched gears. I was always very analytical, that person that walked 360 around a problem and looking for the best alternatives. That was me. And I was pretty much unfeeling in my decision making, like I was very clinical about that. And it was wrong to hang on just to that one style of decision making. As I grew older, I developed other styles as the situation demanded. I used different decision-making styles. God did a great work in me to correct some of those weaknesses and some of those shortcomings, and helped me develop into a different kind of leader, different kind of manager, especially around the whole area of decision-making and behavior. So I encourage you to know your default style, but then let God mold you into the person that He wants you to become. The course text also points out a great list about why managers make bad decisions. And believe me, we do, you will. You maybe have made some bad decisions already as a manager. Check out this list and see if you have observed these in your workplace. Being influenced by initial impressions without gathering all the facts. Justifying your past decisions by making more bad decisions. Seeing what you want to see. That's also known as confirmation bias. Perpetuating the status quo. Being influenced by emotions. And then this one called overconfidence. Do you see your behaviors in this list? I see some of mine for sure. And finally, there is some really good advice from the text about what to do when a crisis in your organization happens. This is on page 232. Keep your emotions in check when there's a crisis. Be that leader. Keep your emotions in check. Keep your ego in check. Make sure that you're getting facts from other people, information from other people. Face the facts head on. Accept the facts and don't attempt to cover them up. Think about the big picture of what you're doing. Take quick action and address the problem head on. And I'm going to add a couple more to this list just based on my own experience. Use a crisis to call people to action to make a change that you've been wanting to make. I love a crisis because it causes change. People are motivated to get something done in the middle of a crisis. So take advantage of your crisis. And then also, don't do the wrong thing to solve a bad decision. In other words, don't be convinced that a cover-up is the best solution. Let God's Spirit guide you in choosing the right thing to do when you're in the middle of a crisis. Kind of restate that. Don't do the wrong thing to correct a wrong thing. It never ends up well. Well, listen, before I close out this week's overview, let's talk about 2 upcoming assignments that I want you to be thinking about. For week 7's assignment, you'll be interviewing 2 managers in 2 different professions, and you're going to be writing a paper about them. You'll create a list of 10 questions at a minimum, and you're going to interview these 2 different managers, and you're going to write about them doing comparisons and contrasts, how are they alike and how are they different. In fact, to get ready for that, this week's discussion question 4, it's going to help you prepare for that assignment in week 7 by giving you a chance to formulate some of those interview questions. Now, week 8, you're going to be doing a one-on-one presentation with me. This is a 10-minute presentation on week 3's paper about a local restaurant. In fact, you just wrote that paper because we're just starting week 4. And you just finished it up in week 3. Now, for this presentation, you'll prepare a PowerPoint or a Prezi if you want to use that about what you wrote about regarding the local restaurant in week 3. And included in this presentation, you're going to include all the additional learned concepts throughout that you've taken on and learned throughout the course since week 3. Okay, so things like decision making, organizational behavior, manage employees, leadership, that sort of thing. And you're going to roll that up into a presentation. You're going to talk about your paper in week 3 and how these concepts apply to the local restaurant management and leadership. Now, this is a 10-minute presentation. You're going to be using Zoom. My purpose for doing this is to make sure you're ready to do online presentations as you progress through your career. Be sure to read the syllabus and be ready for weeks 7 and 8. All right, that's it. As a reminder, your initial response to the discussion questions are due on Wednesday by 11:59 p.m. Arizona time. And the weekly quiz is due by Friday, 11:59 p.m. And the writing assignment's due by Sunday night, 11:59 p.m. And don't forget, I hold virtual office hours each Tuesday from 7:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. Arizona time. You can find the Zoom link to my weekly virtual office hours on the homepage or in the course welcome tab on the how-to page. Remember, God is on his throne. He's always been there and he's always going to be. Have a great week.